So they're saying there is a 17-year-old girl who you had a relationship with. Is that true? And who are they? Who is this girl? What are they talking about, the New York Times?
The person doesn't exist. I have not had a relationship with a 17-year-old. That is totally false. The allegation, as I read it in the New York Times, is that I've traveled with some 17-year-old in some relationship. That is false, and records will bear that out to be false.
Oh, but there are records, and they're proving that that might actually be true. This morning, news broke about Representative Matt Gaetz and that not real 17-year-old girl who was at the center of his sex trafficking scandal, of which someone's already been sentenced to 11 years in jail over. According to Notice, the legal documents that were filed to a Florida federal court cited sealed affidavits from 3 eyewitnesses that testified to placing Matt Gaetz at a drug-fueled sex party in 2017 with said 17-year-old girl, who was identified throughout all of this as AB. However, he did not arrive at the party with the 17-year-old girl. He arrived actually with his girlfriend at the time, and we'll get back to her in a little bit. But more on the story, according to Notice, the minor, who was in junior high at the time, arrived in her mother's car for a July 15th, 2017 party at the Florida home of Chris Dorworth, who's a lobbyist and a friend of Gaetz, according to the court filing written by defense attorneys who interviewed witnesses as a part of an ongoing civil lawsuit that Dorworth brought in 2023. Dorworth basically was like, you've dragged me into a scandal. I'm gonna sue you, and in fact, I'm suing the victim. We'll get into that. He decided to sue both the victim and Joel Greenberg, who again is a former tax collector in Florida who was sentenced to 11 years for sex trafficking, wire fraud, stalking, and identity theft. But back in July of 2023, Daily Beast reported that Dorworth was seeking $1 million, according to a court docket, claiming that his career was destroyed by this investigation and bad press, which he blames on the defendant's allegedly coordinated lies to protect Greenberg. However, one problem with the theory is that Greenberg is now serving an 11-year sentence stemming from a conviction thanks to AB's testimony. At least that's what the 17-year-old attorneys say. So how could they be colluding when her testimony basically put this dude away? Again, Dorworth is the guy whose home this was. Now, Dorworth just dropped the case a few months ago, probably because more testimony has come out corroborating all of what that 17-year-old had to say. One eyewitness cited in the court filings, a young woman referred to as KM, provided a sworn affidavit that claimed the teenage girl, again, AB, was naked. Partygoers were there to, quote, engage in sexual activities, and alcohol, cocaine, ecstasy, and marijuana were present. The teenage girl was identified in the filings again as AB. Additionally, Gaetz's own ex-girlfriend, who again was present at the party, also provided testimony that lawyers say rebuts Dorworth's claims that he was not there. Notice independently verified that Gaetz and one of the women who testified were previously involved in a relationship. She's only identified in her court filings by the initials BG. Again, so he goes to this drug-fueled sex party. A naked 17-year-old is there. Again, the one in question over potential trafficking. But he's there with his other ex-girlfriend who then testified, which led the guy whose home it was to be like, oh man, oops. I guess there's a lot of evidence to the fact that this was my house and I was there. So obviously this is sending massive, it's a massive scandal, but it only builds on everything else that we know about this case. I just want to say that the Justice Department did decline to bring charges against Matt Gaetz. He got off very easy back in 2023 for misconduct related to this 17-year-old. So, and again, he's trying to avoid an ethics investigation. So that's where we're at today. Mm-hmm. I want to put it to you all as to how you feel this squares with whether Matt Gaetz is going to, I don't know, hold on to the last place that will employ him, which is Congress.
Hey, don't scroll away. Come back. Because before the video continues, we just want to urge you to lend your support to TYT. You power our honest reporting. You do it at tyt.com/team, and we love you for it.
The thing with these guys is that whenever something comes out, they just deny it until it just goes away in the media. But they have to know that it's going to come back up eventually, right? So all the denials are going to look like they knew what they were doing. Matt Gaetz had to have known that it was only a matter of time before there was any kind of actual proof of the things that he had already been accused of. His close associate had already been brought up on similar charges that Fran just laid out. And the links between Gaetz and Dorworth and Greenberg, they were all pretty strong, but just not strong enough to get the Justice Department to bring any charges to him. And due process is good and just, and we need to protect it in this country, frankly. But it does get a bit frustrating when we're waiting for more evidence and waiting for that due process to play out. And in the meantime, this guy happens to be orchestrating so many of our lives as a member of Congress. He was the one who was behind the ousting of Kevin McCarthy. And McCarthy came out later and basically confirmed to people that what was being said about Matt Gaetz was true. Of course, we can't prosecute someone based on hearsay, nor should we. But the other thing is that while we do have a judicial system, we also have the court of public opinion. And when your job hinges on voters, the perception of what you've done is practically as important as what you have all actually done, arguably more important. With Republicans, they decided long ago that they're willing to look in the other direction on a lot of things. And Brett and I were talking about this morning on the damage report. But if Republicans do decide to morally indict someone like Matt Gaetz or even Mark Robinson, who we're going to talk about later on the show, for their bad behavior, they would also have to acknowledge that the bad behavior they excuse and downplay all the time for Trump is in fact bad behavior that they do not like. But we know what this is. They just bide their time from one scandal to the next, and they're governing all the while in between, and it's hard to watch.
Okay, real quick, Franny misspoke a little bit. She was a junior in high school, not in junior high. I just want to clarify that. She's 17. Now, there's something very confusing about one part of the story here. So first, they said, okay, 17-year-old was at this party and naked, et cetera. And so this is not the confusing part yet. So I want to be clear, there's not a charge that Matt Gaetz did something with her at that party. He went with his girlfriend to that party. And then the part that I was surprised by, this is now the second sex party we're reporting about today in the news from politicians, is that I was like, oh, okay, somebody did something wrong at a party, but it wasn't Matt Gaetz, it was just a party that he was at. But as you read into the story, no, it was like they were people were having sex with that 17-year-old. It appeared from the description publicly at the party.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is, whoa, what the hell? They're like, no, I guess I'm a total nerd, super naive. Like, I can't believe there's parties like that, let alone US congressmen going to parties like that, and let alone with 17-year-olds. That's just nuts to me. Like, I've never been to a party where anybody's having public sex, let alone minors and with US congressmen. This is nuts, right? But the part of the story that's confusing is, there is a 17-year-old that says that Matt Gaetz sex trafficked her, and there's 3 witnesses that corroborate in the legal filings, and I can't tell if that's a different 17-year-old.
No, it's the same. It's the same. It's the 17-year-old at the center of the entire controversy. And so that's, again, it was confusing initially, but yes, it is the same one. And what I love about this though, Jake, is that it was kind of dead in the water, but the guy whose house it was accusing the 17-year-old of defaming him, basically like suing him for, making him look bad, because I guess his business deals have gone south now that they know that he's got a 17-year-old naked at his parties. Like, cool, no thanks, we'll work with somebody else. And in doing so, we have all this new testimony from other people who were at the party, like Matt Gaetz's own ex-girlfriend, who was like, yeah, there was a naked 17-year-old at this party. Yes, that this congressman was at the time. It is so funny that when you try to make something go away, it's like, no, there's just more discovery, more people are interviewed. And so we'll see if the DOJ keeps on, continues to not actually, try to bring any charges against, again, a sitting congressman.
Yeah, I just can't. Did he have sex with her or did he not? I don't know that it's, obviously up to the audience to decide how relevant that is, right? Meaning not that if he had sex with her, everybody I hope agrees that it's super relevant. If he didn't and he's at the party that it's happening, I don't know if, is that what they mean by sex trafficking?
Not necessarily legal, but
yeah, because there might have been other things that he did with that girl, right? So that's where there's some ambiguity here based on what we know publicly. But any way you slice it, if you're MAGA, I remember you guys saying that groomers and child molesters, etc., anyone doing anything with a minor was the very worst thing in the world, which makes sense, except that you would then make up that people did it. Well, here you don't have to make it up. It was definitely happening, and Matt Gaetz at least had some role in it, according to 3 witnesses. So you all hate Matt Gaetz now, right? Oh, right, no, none of you hate Matt Gaetz. You love Matt Gaetz. That's because you never cared about groomers, you never cared about underage sex, you just cared about smearing people you didn't like.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and the last thing I'll say is like, there's plenty of consensual like sex parties. I don't know how non-coercive something like this is. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying it was coercive, but this is an underage girl who is naked at a party with lobbyists and Congress people. Can we put that into a sort of like a predatory understanding of that, right? Like, this is not fun for everyone involved.
Yeah, oh, there's no question about that. So, look, in Florida, that 17 might be legal, so you might not get into trouble with Florida law. But she was dropped off by her mom at the party.
She took her mom's car.
Oh, she took her mom's. Jesus Christ! But it doesn't matter. To 17-year-old junior in high school, being sex trafficked at the party. To me, that's not the relevant. That's obvious. That's terrible, right? I think the only question that remains is, did Matt Gaetz participate, or was he just at the party? And so, and then you could have whatever opinion you want about that. But Magga, if you say none of this is a big deal, I mean, it's the most obvious thing in the world that you're enormous hypocrites and you're not even trying to hide it. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.